Just me, a place to be me, where you get to experience life. 'Cause life is a journey, not a guided tour. If you want the rainbow, you have to go through the rain.
Hey, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are back with another episode circling around recognizing red flags, setting healthy boundaries, and dating in the digital world. And I know that with 2025, dating has become very digital. And sometimes it can feel like between swiping, between dating apps, between ghosting, between red flags, between setting healthy boundaries, recognizing when to set healthy boundaries, it can just feel like a minefield of chaos and uncertainty. So today we're going to look at understanding why ghosting happens, and what are red flags and how to set healthy boundaries in this dating world. So when we talk about ghosting, ghosting is basically when someone does not respond to you anymore. You have maybe some good conversation. You're starting a conversation with somebody on a dating app, and then all of a sudden it kind of goes blank. There's no more response to the person from the person. And sometimes it can make us or leave us feeling very uncomfortable when someone just stops talking to us without an explanation. So, ladies, from a mental health point of view, and this is just from a mental health perspective, what is ghosting and why does it happen?
Well, you you just expressed that ghosting happens when someone just stopped responding. So, for example, if you meet someone on a dating app and you all start conversating, and you may ask questions as it relates to what are your goals as related to dating, and they stop responding. So, as we said before, the definition of ghosting is when they disappear. What does you
Mhm.
when it comes to a ghost? It's almost
Like
like,
Casper,
yeah,
Mhm.
you
can't see him no more.
can't
And
see
I,
them.
I've
and
done I've done several ghostings. I'm not that. But as we begin to talk about this, I can recognize some of my shortcomings as to why I did ghost. And some of the reasons that people do ghost is that fear of confrontation, not having that emotional maturity to really communicate what exactly is going on. Sometimes we talk to multiple different people on dating apps and recognize that, oh, that person is not just a good connection with me. So instead of saying that and communicating that, and for people who don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, kind of just disappear. But that shows more about your own communication than the other person's communication. So we have that fear of confrontation, lack of emotional maturity, feeling overwhelmed, me constantly between work, between friends, between I just don't have the energy to sustain another conversation that I don't feel like is going anywhere. But that's more on me than the other person. What y'all got?
well, I know when I first heard the terminology like ghosting, I'm like you like ghosting. What's that? Like Casper? Did you just disappear? But again, I had to see what it meant, and that's just like being ignored, or and who wants to be ignored? If I'm whether okay, I'm on the dating app, if I'm reaching out and we're talking, and all of a sudden you stop, it was like why they stop talking to me. But then I have to use the terminology now is ghosting, or I got ghosted. So now I know what it means. But in knowing what it means, the feeling that it gives you is rejection. It was like they rejected me again, or why? And you want to know why. So why do you reject the person without fully communicating with them? You know what? This was a good ride, but maybe we shouldn't talk. You just stop talking. And the feeling that you get when somebody does it to you, but in turn, we do it to others. And like you said, it can just be overwhelmed. And it's no different when caller ID came out to me, it's like, oh, I'm not finna answer that now that I know who's calling. Was that like ghosting when you just ignore the phone calls? Because you know who's calling. Because other than that, you pick up and say hello, and oh, now who's on the other line? But it's too late. You answered.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
with all that you all just said, fear of confrontation, lack of emotional maturity, or simply overwhelmed, to me, ghosting also means, they don't know how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's and I work with a lot of patients that use the digital world as it relates to trying to reach out and connect with people. And they will express to me that, hey, I start talking to this person. I ask them questions like, what are your goals? What are your beliefs? And then they start communicating.
Yes.
And that is a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you cannot communicate how you're feeling, then how are you going to move forward within a relationship?
And I think that sometimes so yes, red flag, um, but also, well, I guess we could call it a red flag. I guess I'm hesitant to say red flag, but I understand how it's just easier to separate things between red flags and green flags when you're talking about dating, because dating is just such a complex experience. So when we say red flags, if a person does something that is maybe not within my values, not within how I communicate, not within um, what I believe is the
Well,
direction my life is going, then that's
okay.
considered a red flag. And maybe we would not be the best together. But someone's red flag to you doesn't have to be someone's red flag to somebody else. And I caution as we continue to have conversations about digital dating that red flag can also be another term that we categorize as a rejection concept instead of, hey, that person just isn't for you. There are some people that are okay with not communicating their feelings and will be in a relationship with somebody else for a very, very long time. So for them, that's not a red flag. That's just how they're able to communicate, or how they're able to interact with each other. But yes, if you feel like the person is not able to answer a question that you pose to them, or there is maybe dancing around an answer, dancing around a question as well, then and if that's not good for you, that doesn't sit well for you, then that's not a person that maybe is going to be the best connection for you,
Okay, so
i.e. a
I'm
red flag.
okay, so I'm gonna go back and forth with you for a while if you just stay with me. So with
Yeah.
that being said, if your communication is not verbal, right,
Mhm.
then you have to let me know what type of communication is important to you.
Yes.
So there are different ways that people can and choose to communicate. So if I'm a verbal communicator, and that's very important to me, and you are more a texter or a writer, you still have to communicate with me to let me know what I'm dealing with. Because
Mhm.
when you're saying ghosting, there is no response.
Mhm.
So how can you deal with someone that does not give you any response? So if your communication is ghosting, how are we going to move forward? Tracy, help
Very
us.
true.
And I see both sides because one is like when we talk about red flags is different, and everybody red flag, what falls in that category is going to look different for everyone. So when you say communication is like your standard, if that does not happen, definitely it will fall in the red flag category for you. And what you do with that is entirely up to you. I know in our last episode, we had talked about how many red flags is too much. Some people go in relationships and like, if I see this, I'm out. Some people know it takes one, two, or three. We had a discussion like, why do men seem to, if they say one and it happened, they're out, but women go in with three and we extend it to four, five, six, seven, and 30 before we say we're going to come out just for whatever reason that we choose. When we go back to ghosting and the feeling that it gives, why does a person do it? Why do you do it? Like Miss Sasha raised her hand, like I do it all the time. And my reasons for doing this being overwhelmed. Maybe I just don't see it vibing. And it's easy for me not to just say anything, just dismiss it, and eventually they will go away. So that the feeling that that person may have, it has an effect some kind of way. And you don't know that and you will never know it. The person that when it gets done to you, I would say ask the same question when you feeling, well, I don't understand why they ghosted. Some people laugh and be like, oh, they ghost me. And it doesn't bother them at all because they'll come back and say, well, I ain't like them. I ain't want to talk to them anyway. They saved me some time. But others
Mhm.
feel, well, what did I do? I didn't do anything
Yeah.
wrong. And it bothers them. And again, so when you go into it, whether it's online dating and just in people you meet, things can start out really well. And all of a sudden they just stop talking to you for what reason and you don't know. And if it affects you some kind of way, that's when you have to stand your grounds and your values as to who I am and what are those things that are good to me. What are my standards? And if they don't meet it, you still gotta when you do that self-assessment, instead of devaluing yourself, you should be proud of yourself and say, you know what, I still feel good about myself because I'm not lowering my standards at all. And I don't deal with ghosting, it'd be like, again, I either thank them for ghosting me, not responding, but I'm not going to feel like I'm being rejected because I'll look at you and say, you know what, communication is important to me, and that's not a good communicator. And I'm glad they did not waste my time one more minute.
Mhm.
And it's okay to ask them the question,
Mhm.
why haven't I heard from you? Or, why did you ghost me? Because
Mhm.
I think if you take that initial step, you are trying to figure out, you're bringing closure to
Mhm.
the situation by figuring out what has happened.
Mhm.
And then that will allow you to move forward instead of having these thoughts in your mind,
Yeah.
well, what happened? What did I do wrong? Because something, it could have been a miscommunication. It could have, as it relates to why it happened. But if you reach out and ask what happened and they did not respond, then in your mind, I will hope that you will have the peace. What I done did, all I can do.
And some
Mhm.
people struggle with having, like, not getting that closure. Like, I have to have it before I can move on. I have to have that answer. And again, it could be simple, like if it's digital, I ain't pay my bill, I ain't got the internet, so I can't get on my phone. And it's been 3 days, and them 3 days was just your melting point. And then when I finally get it and try to explain, like, hey, you got your hand up, like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You could have found some other kind of way to get in contact with me, something like that. We say those things too. But it just could
That
be
is true.
some
Being intentional.
something that simple that I lost power. But in that moment, it feels like, again, well, I ain't hear from her. I sent 5 texts, and that happened to a sibling of mine, and she, like, I got ghosted. And what happened? They had their phone in airplane mode. They forgot to take it out of airplane mode.
Mm-hmm.
And two
Mhm.
days later, when they took it out and saw the text, they responded. And when the understanding came, her feelings was like, oh, like, I'm glad, because she was like, I didn't do anything, but she got at peace. Like, I'm gonna try one more time. If
That's
she
right.
don't, I'm okay, because I know that I didn't do anything wrong but present myself as to who I am. And
Correct.
then again, once that understanding came, relationship is still back on track. And it wasn't a dating thing, just a platonic from one friend from someone that she had met. So it could be just something that's a misunderstanding. But most of the time, ghosting is real when it comes to them dating. So people are looking, be like, I ain't got nothing for them. They talk too much. They not what I want. Why they keep calling? Uh, but again, instead of ghosting, you should be strong enough for you to be like, you know what, it was fun. This is the last text. I'm done. So that way, you're giving them closure, whether they want to accept it or not. At least you're providing the closure. And then if you don't receive it, just take that as a, you know what, maybe this one wasn't the one for me, opposed to having more negative thoughts
That's right.
toward it, and carrying those around in the bucket.
Correct.
And that's where the healthy boundaries come in. That's where it's setting those boundaries for yourself. And if
Hey,
you
there you
don't
go.
cross your boundaries, don't allow nobody to cross them either. But when
First,
you
you gotta know what your
cross your
boundaries
own
are.
boundaries, it's very hard for people to respect your boundaries that you set. They're like, you're not even setting them. So I'm going to do the same thing.
Correct.
And then sometimes you also have to think about what exactly your intentions are with dating on these digital apps. So if you're dating, if your intention on for dating is to find a partner, monogamous relationship, then you lead with that intention of, okay, what do you anticipate or expect in a relationship? Healthy communication. But if you're looking for something where it's just, hey, I'm just looking for a friend, have fun, then maybe your boundaries with what you're receiving and you're expecting to receive is going to be a little different. Um, and I think that that also depends on where you are at, like we just said, in your dating journey. So
Hmm. And it's easy going in like you say like someone just you just go in just for fun. And if they coming in for fun, but you coming in for a long-term commitment, but you like how they look and you like what they saying, you be like, oh, I can change him or her. Like, oh, this all they gotta do is see me one time. I would make a difference. But again, they come in, get what they want, they gone.
mhm.
Well, most people
That's
tell
And
you
not
that's another.
ghosting. I got what I want, and now, and when I close communication, you knew that from the beginning.
that's right. Most people tell you what you want, what they
Mm,
want. You just don't listen.
tell
People
you
tell
what
you
they
what
want and who
you
they
yes,
are.
they
Yeah.
do. They really do. You know, by me, my experience in therapy, working with consumers, you know, within the fifth or sixth visit, I was like, did they tell you that? Yeah, they did initially. People tell you what
Which
they want.
can you explain that a little bit more, Miss Smith? What do you mean
Well,
that they
people
tell you?
tell you that right now I'm not looking for a serious relationship.
Hmm.
So if they tell you that, then it's up to you to stay on the course, with hopes that they will change. You don't have to because they expressed to you initially, I'm not looking for a serious relationship.
And the
Take it for what
definition
it
of
is.
serious, yeah, the definition of serious relationship can look different. So
Ask
me and you been
questions.
dating for 5 years. You don't call this serious? Because I'm ready to get married.
Listen, he told you
And
that initially,
in
though.
the beginning,
He told you that initially. I'm
in the
not.
beginning, yeah.
They done
Uh,
told you. You choose to stay here. So if you stay here and you expecting things to change, yeah, it is a risk if you stay there, but initially people know what they want. They'll
how
tell
long
you
is too
exactly what
long?
they want. Yes. Yes. So it's up to you. You control your life, not other people. So if you know your values and beliefs, you know what you're wanting. And initially, when people tell you that, this is where I am right now, you can stay alone. You can stay if you choose to. But just be mindful, things may not change because I told you. I'm not looking for a serious relationship.
And that comes along. I think that sometimes we create this whole obstacle within dating and we look at rejection or we look at people telling us what they truly want as an element of rejection when that's a part of the dating experience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's okay if this person does not align with you as far as what you're looking for.
Yeah.
There's a billion other people. And with the digital dating, you have access to billions, a billion other people. And I think that sometimes we kind of get stuck in that, oh, well, maybe I'll just stick out with this person and eventually they're going to change.
Yeah.
You only get one life. And through that time, there are going to be so many other experiences that you can have. So, with trying to hold on to this hope that this person will change their mind at one point within your life, that is something that can limit you within your dating experience. So, and I say dating because marriage is a whole different ballpark. So, as far as the relationship and what that looks like, but I can speak for dating. My friend told me once, let it be fun. Let dating be fun, experience new things, learn about yourself, learn about how you communicate, learn about what makes you feel uncomfortable, learn about how you can better communicate. Because I tell you, I've been ghosted and I have ghosted other people. The feeling of being ghosted sucks. But then I also know that, okay, I didn't like the way that felt. So let me do a better job at communicating to the person that didn't necessarily like talking to moving forward. And I have learned a couple of things as far as how to communicate. Hey, this isn't the best relationship or the best communication for me. There are a couple times where I've sent text messages like, hey, I enjoyed our conversation at the gym, but I'm honestly trying to pursue something with another person. So thank you so much for your time. And just leave it at that. So I've learned to better communicate as I've gotten older and been on this dating journey.
Sasha, like the first time you ghosted, you said it was a learning curve for you. The first time you ghosted someone, it was like you just stopped. And then as you learned, again, based on how it made you feel, like I don't want nobody to feel like me. So then I'm gonna at least tell them why, or again, this is the reason. Have they ever responded like, give me one more try or anything like that? Or has that always been received? Or like again, or have you been like, oh, I'll get cussed out, because people can be ruthless too? Just in your experience, has it always been like received, or did you get backlash too from it too?
No, so that's the funny thing. My fear was always that I was going to get backlash and that I was going to get cussed out. And I had to get over that. So the
Mm-hmm.
times that I did give that response, sending a text message or talking to the person like, hey, I just don't think that we're interested in the same things, it's always been received well.
Okay.
So,
People
nope, I
respect.
take that back. Wait a minute. No, I lied. Wait, hold up, pause. I lied. There was one situation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But one out of like six.
Okay.
That's a good odds. Okay, those are good odds. Like one out of six. The one I had to literally block. But again, I have that control because it's my digital technology. So if I don't want to talk to that person anymore after I've explained, I don't like blocking people, but in that situation, I definitely had to block. Yes,
Okay.
yes. But overall, it's received very well. We're all out here just trying to figure out life. So that's just me.
All right, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We definitely address some ghosting and just practicing setting healthy boundaries. So until next time, guys, take care of yourself so that we can all take care of each other. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Just Me Therapy podcast. If you are seeking further one-on-one diagnoses, interventions, and treatment plans, please consider scheduling an appointment with an individual counselor at Journeys Counseling Center, located in Greensboro, North Carolina. Journeys can be reached at 336-294-1349. The mission of Just Me Therapy podcast is to use authentic conversations to uplift one's mind, body, and soul. The goal of Just Me Therapy is to offer affordable education and insight to individuals who experience financial barriers to accessing individualized behavioral health care services. With that being said, the information, including opinions, advice, and recommendations discussed in this podcast, are intended for individual, informational, and educational purposes only. Such information is not intended to substitute the recommendations of your own licensed therapist or healthcare professional. Although we are licensed behavioral health professionals, we are not your licensed behavioral health professional. As a result, the advice mentioned on this podcast should not replace the recommendations offered by your own qualified health professional.